Another scripted video time. As usual, there's no intro for that, so just come up with your own if you have to. Let's get right into the video. This is supposed to be another Muslim video. Not that I think that inherently that means it's going to be untrue, but I just don't have a very good experience with Muslims. Usually whenever they bring up morality, I get incredibly pissed off due to a just painful double standard.
All of you are engaged in running your mouths, doing your business, multiplying, buying houses, cars, business, whatever you're doing. And when you're told about God, religion, life, morality, you're saying, look, I ain't got no time for that. I ain't got no time for that.
Bugger off, you wanker. I talked about morality in one of my last videos when I was addressing this kind of thing.
Now, how do we know that there's a God? And how do we know that there's a creator?
God is the cause of all beings.
An atheist must believe that the universe came from nothing and by nothing. But surely that doesn't make sense.
That may be true. However, a theist believes that God must have come out of nothing. The only other option is that God has always been there. And if that's an acceptable answer for God, then why is not an acceptable answer for the universe? Why couldn't the universe have always been there, just in a form that we couldn't comprehend?
Out of nothing, nothing comes. Premise 1. Whatever begins to exist has a cause. 2. The universe began to exist. 3. Therefore, the universe has a cause.
Again, I would like to point out that the same argument could be applied to God. Whatever exists has a cause. God began to exist, so God must have a cause. So what created God now? This quote-unquote criticism/argument applies to both the universe and God. The atheists and theists just disagree at which point it happens.
So this cause should be beyond space and time, eternal and self-existing necessary being.
Okay, this might sound crazy, but here's an alternate theory. What can the universe be eternal and self-existing? Yes, I'm actually proposing the crazy idea that the universe itself is God. Yeah, that's absurd, no.
God is no true science.
In the creations of the heavens and earth, and the alternation of the night and day,
AKA two very relatively easily explainable phenomena,
and the ships which sail the seas to people's benefit,
AKA something that humans have created with their human hands to benefit humans,
and the water which Allah sends down from the sky, by which he brings the earth to life when it was dead, and scatters about in it creatures of every kind.
You know, this is probably a much better pitch for a god of water than it would be for a general god.
And the varying directions of the winds, and the clouds subservient between heaven and earth. There are signs for people who use their intellect.
And all of these signs are either easily explainable natural physical processes that are now very well understood, or things that man themselves have created with no god intervening.
There are uniform laws in nature which indicate that nothing comes by coincidence. Everything is created precisely.
Addressed in a previous video that I will be linking to right about now, so yeah, skipping this one.
The miracle of life. Science has no explanation of where did life came from.
While we don't know it yet, we have some pretty good guesses. And even then, these guesses are a lot more informed than done, like the claims that God did.
Or what causes the living body to die?
Actually, we do have the answer to that one. Sufficient mechanical, chemical, or other physical changes to the organism that causes it to cease its proper method of functioning.
If someone's heart has stopped working, replace it. Bring him back to life. You cannot.
Bitch, we're dead.
The reason of life and death is the one and only God.
So you admit it then. God created you for the sole purpose of killing you.
The sun is there to produce energy and light. The trees are there to produce oxygen and fruit. The animals are there to produce food and clothes. The question is that who set these purposes?
The answer might surprise you, so get ready. We did. See, you speak of it as if it was the purpose of the sun to produce energy and everything like that, as though that were the exact intents for them being there. But there is the possibility that they just happen to be there producing those things that the humanity benefits from. I mean, it's not like the sun provides us light and energy because it's literally a ball of atomic fire. Or that the trees produce oxygen as a result of chemical reactions. You know, those unchangeable laws of the universe that you were trying to use as an argument and are now ignoring in favor of your agenda. I mean, don't you just go flip-flopping around on that like this? How do you know that they exist for the sole purpose of providing humanity with food, hide, and stuff like this? Rather than, I don't know, these animals themselves being like us humans, trying to pursue their own food and the best conditions for them to have, that we just happen to take advantage of. Do you think that is impossible? How arrogant do you have to be to claim that all the life in the universe was made specifically to bring forth your existence?
What is the purpose of our life? For rational mind, everything has a purpose, and for sure there is a purpose for life, and there is a creator who set this purpose.
Allah has shown the people from the time of Adam until right now, has shown the people what he wants from them. And it's a very simple thing, and that is that worship be for him alone without any partners.
And that is what I mean. You see, I'm an atheist, and this is mostly because I don't believe God exists. I am not convinced by any of the evidence presented to me so far that he is in fact real. However, I will, as an atheist, often be strawmanned as simply refusing to worship God for whatever reason. This is not my lack of belief. This is me knowingly rejecting God according to the strawman. But you know what? Because of stuff like this,
that worship be for him alone without any partners.
It's not even a strawman anymore. The only purpose of our life is to bend down and pray. That is the entire purpose of the existence of humanity. If God exists and these guys are right, then my life is meaningless. Because I was created with a singular purpose of getting down on my knees and sucking Allah's dick. I know it's not literally supposed to be that, but for the purposes of the argument it might as well be. Allah has created us specifically to worship him.
What is my purpose?
You pass butter.
Oh my god.
Yeah, welcome to the club, pal.
This creator of the universe and humanity has made us to be no more worthy than a goddamn sex doll. How can you really value your life so low that you think that your life is absolutely meaningless unless you constantly praise some kind of a higher being with praise and affection? And yes, in that situation it would be true that if there is no God, then the life of the atheist is, well, meaningless, that he has nothing to drive him. See, I am an atheist and I did find a meaning in life. And that meaning is to live. We aren't living in just an empty vacuum. We live on Earth. All of our actions are put within the context of this insignificant little blue planet floating through space near a ball of gas and fire. And within that context, I have found meaning. There are things that our brains naturally desire. Sure, cosmically, philosophically, universally, they may be meaningless, but it doesn't mean that they don't matter to us in the moment. Yeah, it might be very defeatist and hedonistic to believe that, but honestly, I will take that over being this guy. If God exists, my life is no more meaningful than this Marine. This Marine which exists specifically to be ordered around. This Marine whose only goal in life is to follow the cursor that clicks him. he will, without question, without thought, without any meaning given to it, run straight into a swarm of aliens and get himself eviscerated. And he did it all because of God. So yes, theists, Islamists, Christians, whoever, if you want to accuse me of not wanting God, that's because you're right. I would never, ever devalue human life to the point where it can be equivalent to the life of a couple bits of data in a video game. You talk about the miracle of life, but all you do with it is squander it.
In fact, we know this life to be a test from Almighty God. That's why we're born, and that's why we die. Because there has to be a beginning and an end for us to be tested on.
See? No matter how much they tell you that God loves you and cares about you, He doesn't. God, Allah, whatever you want to call it, if it exists, and this claim is true, then you are but a pawn. Your free will is meaningless. Everything that doesn't meet a certain set of conditions is going to just get nuked. To believe such a God exists is to have zero regard for human life, zero regard for human will, zero respect for your fellow human beings. We have accomplished unbelievable things. We are close to understanding the miracle of life. We can save people from death. We can live such beautiful moments of joy, happiness, excitement, even the less pleasant ones, like unbelievable anguish, grief, hell, even something as simple as wonderment of exploration. All of this is pointless, because the only reason why you exist, why you would exist, and why you should exist is to submit, is to curb your free will, is to ignore all the knowledge you have and just nod along to your God's wishes like a drone. You may think of yourself as this guy, you know, Jim Raynor, the hero who goes around and does things. But no, you are actually this guy. You are a mere Zerg drone created by the greater being for the sole purpose of serving it, and you will happily obey, not because you choose to do so, but because you were created for the sole purpose of doing so. I know you are trying only to save me from the hellfire. I know you think you're trying to make my life better by converting me to Allah. I know you are trying, in your mind, to save me from eternal damnation. But this thinking is the same kind of thinking that a Zergling would see whenever it eviscerates a disobedient Terran Marine. This is the same kind of thinking that an infestor gets whenever it successfully infests a human being. This is the kind of feeling you get when your free will is stripped away and replaced with obey. Because to think for yourself is the greatest sin of all. Also, even if all of those things are true, it doesn't prove that the God which created the universe and everything is Allah. So, yeah. But you know what, I'm feeling rather generous, so I'm just gonna do another video while we're here. This one isn't Muslim, but if they just repeat the same points, I'm just gonna straight up cut it out without even mentioning it.
And one of the questions that I'm asked as a scientist is, how can a scientist really believe that there's something what we refer to usually as God?
It's actually really easy to imagine something like this. See, the argument of this type goes rather simply. The scientist does believe there is a God which created the universe, and then did absolutely nothing with it. That is an entirely possible thing that I'm not completely closed off to. However, I don't believe a God which had the power to create the universe would feel the need to further interfere in it and create something as fucking miserable as humans. So, as unbelievable as this may sound, this is actually rather feasible.
You know, it's this metaphysical whatever acting in the world or producing the world. And the irony is, the question's really a non-starter. Science has in fact discovered God.
Excuse me, what?
And you can talk to the hardline atheists, and they will say, it looks like science has indeed discovered God.
Excuse me for just 1 second.
And how would that be? Well, if you take the trouble of going to the web and they're typing WMAP, the initials for a satellite.
What? I might as well get something good to eat while we have something this entertaining. Don't tell me you didn't want to get popcorn.
It's a diagram that shows the development of the universe from the creation over time. It's a timeline. Every word on that diagram comes from the NASA site. It is the condensed knowledge of the scientific community of how the universe created and how it got to where we are today. Each of the lines, the vertical lines, is another billion years. Okay, you start from a burst of energy at the extreme left side of the diagram, and you end up at the far end with the oval. The oval is to indicate expansion in all directions. Of course, because it's a timeline, we can't show that on a single piece of paper.
All right, things are getting interesting.
We see here, most amazingly, that on the extreme left edge, it shows a beginning to the universe. Now go back less than 50 years. If I were teaching that at Tech, a person could lose tenure saying that there was a creation of the universe. It sounds like it's Bible. Because less than 50 years ago, the overwhelming scientific opinion was the universe is eternal. There was never a beginning. The Bible is wrong from the very first sentence. And then we discovered, suddenly, Arno Penzias and Robert Wilson, the Bell Labs in New Jersey, the northeast of the US, discovered the echo of the Big Bang, the energy left over, which George Gamow, 60 years ago, predicted that if there had been a universe created hot and small, it would have exploded, and the energy would get more and more dilute. And Penzias and Wilson, these Arno Penzias and Robert Wilson, discover this energy that had been predicted overnight. The Bible got it right. There was a beginning to the universe.
Okay, so if I understand this argument correctly, the Bible happens to have the poetic structure which is agreeing with how we currently scientifically understand the universe. Okay? I mean, a broken clock is right twice a day. How does that prove anything? Especially when you consider all the other things that the Bible says are true, which we now currently understand that they aren't. Stuff like the flood, or the order in which life came into being. Or even just the fact that you apparently are supposed to cure the plague by just spraying bird blood everywhere. I mean, among all of those contextual failings of the Bible, it seems that the opening line that the universe has a beginning is either a literally device, or the Bible simply happens to be correct by coincidence.
Now the black in the diagram is nothing. It's not a vacuum. Vacuums are within that diagram, within that cone of expansion. Vacuums are empty space, and space is something. The black of the paper around the diagram is nothing. How are we going to have this idea, is there a God or not? Notice that the creation force isn't a three-letter word, G-O-D. If you look at the words carefully, it's a quantum fluctuations.
We chose the wrong word!
That understanding was first brought down by Ed Tryon, brilliant human being, in the journal Nature almost 40 years ago. The universe allows creation of something from nothing, provided you have the laws of nature, the quantum fluctuation, that you can create something from absolute nothing, provided you've got the laws of nature, quantum physics and the laws of relativity. In other words, the laws of nature.
Funny enough, my understanding of science is actually relatively limited. However, I do know that there is a difference between the general physics that we apply in our day-to-day life and quantum physics. For all I know, they could be completely independent, so this is more of an eyebrow-raiser to me, rather than any kind of a knockdown argument.
So look what science has discovered. We can create the universe from absolute nothing, provided we have the forces of nature. Now, the laws of nature, the forces of nature aren't physical, they act on the physical.
Wrong. You mentioned before that there is a separation between nothingness and just a vacuum, in the sense that nothingness has no quote-unquote space. As far as I understand it, the theory goes that at the quote-unquote beginning of the universe, there was a hypersingularity, which just had the entire space and time of everything clumped together in a very tight space. The quantum fluctuations and the expansion of time and space themselves would absolutely be a form of forces of nature.
So if they create the universe, that means they predate the universe.
Are you trying to suggest that the laws of nature themselves are God?
So now we have a set of forces, we call them the laws of nature, that are not physical, that are able to act on the physical. They create the physical from absolute nothing. And they predate the universe, which means they predate our understanding of time. Put that together, it sounds very familiar.
You're gonna claim it's God, aren't you?
That's the biblical definition of God.
Wait. I know I dismissed it earlier as a ludicrous notion, but what if...
That are not physical, that are not
God
that
began
are able
to
to
exist.
act on the
Eternal
physical,
and self-existent.
predate the universe.
But it just gives you big bang.
Very intricate differences that must never vary.
As far as precision goes, I don't see why you can't pin down exactly what's God. Yes, I'm actually proposing the crazy idea that the universe itself is God.